Hello, bookish friends. It's Ivy Reads with another book review. Today's review is To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods by Molly Chang. This is the Illumicrate exclusive edition, so I'm going to show off some of those beautiful customizations. That's Ruing, the main character. And that is Antony, the Roman prince, who she ends up working for. That's the author, Molly Chang. And then the cover of the book is pretty cool too, the naked hardcover, because in this world, after the Romans invaded, they had one side of the river had Ruying's people, and the other side had Roman people, and there was a very clear class divide. And Ruying's side, held the slums, held the poverty and the pain, while the Roman side was clean, crisp, perfect, utopian. So in this world, the Romans, who kind of represent a mix between the European colonizers, particularly England, who introduced opium to China when they had nothing of value that the Chinese wanted. They got their people addicted to opium so that they could trade for resources and honestly weaken the nation. And so the same thing happened in this book. Um, and so in this book, Ruying's people have magic. Well, it's dying out, but they have magic. And the opium can enhance it, supposedly. And so that's how they got a lot of people to partake, was telling them it would make their powers, their gifts, more powerful, and they could throw off the shackles that Rome had thrown on them by imbibing it, and instead just becoming enslaved to something else. Um, the other part that the other people that the Romans are based on are the Japanese Imperial Army from World War II, which I actually did not know about the death camps in China before doing a little bit of research about this book. Um, I, I feel bad that I didn't know. I should have known, but while some people were able to survive the concentration and death camps in um, Poland and Germany, no one survived Unit 713, which was largely a medical experimentation camp, um, where what I mean, it was all horrible. Like there, but definitely learning about that. I spent an evening crying after learning about some of the stuff that happened. Um, and so Molly, if you listen to the audiobook, she does the introduction and she talks about how she grew up listening to her grandfather's stories and how this is he lived with the effects of colonization, and he lived during the time that World War II happened. So people, I don't know if it was actually people he knew or just he knew of, but for Unit 713, they were grabbing people, and they were just disappearing, and they were never seen again, and there was nothing they could do. And so she explains that hearing those stories from her grandfather really influenced this book, and that she believes her grandfather would be very proud of this story. And I agree. I think it's exquisitely done, and it's done in such a way that I can tell the influence that her grandfather and her own history have had, because this isn't the kind of book I could write, because there, there's not that history there to pull from for me. Um, and I can read about it, but hearing it from someone who grew up with that, who learned about it from an eyewitness, or who lived through that fear, the feelings in this book that she's able to portray, the desperation, it's so unique, it's so precious and valuable. And I think this is one of the books that I've read that definitely I felt different, like a different person after reading it. So I also feel like it's a very important book to read. Um, Not quite as heavy as Babel, but still, I think, enlightening in that way. So Ruying is it's this world that I want to say paradise China, before technology and stuff. It reminded me a little of the movie Avatar, like just nature and resources, and the world was pure and people had magic. And so it does follow the theory that societies either evolve along one of two routes, science or magic. And so her world, universe, evolved along magic. And the Romans, who came through a portal with science, they evolved on magic. And they had all these weapons of mass destruction and bombs. Like they come from what would, I guess, sound like our world's future, because that's the kind of technology that they had. Um, and they're going to a world that probably still would have been Middle Ages, Renaissance kind of period. So they came in and just floored them. And so Ruing is living among the oppressed, and she has the magic to kill with her touch, but she keeps it hidden because everyone who uses their magic, it costs a little bit of your life. So the more you use it, the faster you die. And, also her grandmother is like, killing people's bad, don't do it. Her sister has the power of healing. Unfortunately, she got addicted to opium, which she was told would enhance her powers. And she took it, and because she wanted to, if they could all take the opium and enhance their powers, they could fight off Rome and free their people. Unfortunately, um, that doesn't appear to be the case in the book. It might enhance it a little, but it obviously does not compensate for the addiction. And so you get to listen to Ru Ying's perspective of what her sister used to be like, and then kind of watching how the addiction has changed her sister. And that's what addiction does. It changes the person. It rewires their brain. They will, they're not the same people they were. Um, so she's trying to help her sister recover, and so she um, is trying to buying the drugs in secret from her grandmother because she doesn't want her grandmother to know, and she is hoping to wean her sister off of it. One day she sees a rich Roman with a fat gold purse, and he is stopping to watch a beggar and give her money. And while he's doing that, Ruing runs up, steals his purse, and books it. The Roman's guard almost catches her, but she uses her death magic on him. And when the Roman who she robbed catches up, he's just watching her and he's fascinated. He's like, "What did you do?" Like, he's not afraid at all. He's just fascinated. And, she runs. Her friend, who has super strength, shows up and helps her escape. Um, so that's an important detail. And so then she and her friend are later kidnapped from their beds and basically thrown into the equivalent of a concentration camp dungeon ish thing. And um, her childhood friend turned Roman dog slash traitor, who works for them. Like, there were often many Jews who, well, I wouldn't say many. There were some who would would serve in order to protect the people they loved and themselves, which is an understandable choice in being put into that kind of horrific situation. But that's another topic. So he shows up and he says that he's going to help get her out of there and he's going to protect her, and somewhat. And then the guy she robbed shows up, and his name is Antony, and it turns out he is a prince of Rome. Not a biological prince, but he earned his place. And I'm not going to reveal how he did that, but he was chosen by the emperor. Um, Caesar, by the Caesar, something like that. So he is competing for the throne to prove that he is the worthiest. And he believes Ru Ying's death powers can help him do that because he can assassinate, um, without evidence, leaders of the rebellion among Ru Ying's people, making it essentially a, if they silence all the voices in opposition, it avoids a war. And so Antony presents this as, the most peaceful solution. Like, isn't it better that we just kill a few people? Because look at these bombs we have. We could wipe you out. We could just kill you all and take the planet, and then you'd just be dead. So really, I'm a good guy. I want to save your people. I want them to live. And Ru Ying allows herself to believe that she's doing the lesser of two evils, and works with him and believes him, and they start to fall for each other. But you can definitely tell with Antony, and especially when they switch to his perspective at the end, it's more, he does love her, but in an obsessive, possessive kind of way. And he loves her outside of her people. Like, anytime her friend from her past talks to her, or she, talks about her people, he seems to like shut it down. Like, he wants her without, I guess, the cultural background attached, which, isn't real love, because that's all part of her love for her people, her planet, her country, whatever you want to call it. And, he's kind to her, and he is the reason she's surviving. So I think on her part, it's a bit of Stockholm syndrome. Like, he's protecting me, he's kind to me, he's giving me freedoms, he's treating me with dignity that is, the others wouldn't have. I'd be dead or being tortured right now if it wasn't for him. So I can absolutely see why she would have latched onto that. And, she's surviving. This is a story about survival, I think, most of all, more than I wouldn't really call it a love story. It's a survival story. Um, and then she is confronted with she's forced to look at some of the truths of what Antony has done behind her back, and that she hasn't wanted to see, because it meant she could no longer believe what he was saying. And, and then is confronted with a very real choice. Like, do I give up my safety? Do I give up the safety of my family, who he's protecting and paying for to live comfortably, to fight for freedom that might not happen, for a war that we might lose? It's a very, very intense choice, an intense book, and I really loved it, and I highly recommend reading it.